Yo, squad, what's going on? Welcome to Ichabod. I am your host, Be Good, and today we're talking about, do you trust the Bible? No. Should you trust the Bible? Specifically, when the Bible gets several things blatantly wrong and still bids you to trust it, we're going to talk about whether or not it's worth the trust. But we're going to go a different way with it today. I've been waiting to do this episode for a while, been waiting to talk about this idea of Eminem. Eminem versus black rappers. I think there's a lesson in this that will help us make some pretty insightful points about whether or not the Bible deserves our trust. So come on into the chat, greet somebody in Reason's name. What's up, Pragmatic Crystal? Good to see you. What's up, Sharon? Good to see you. How are you guys enjoying your holiday? If y'all cooking out and didn't invite me, shame on you. Mo Wheat, what's happening? Hey, Mo. Al saw all, my co-host Al, he saw all of your screen names and he said, hey, is Ace Mac the same as Mo Wheat, the same as, I said, yeah, all those are his names. He said, this guy's like a trinity. He's got three persons in one. What's up, y'all? Come on into the chat. Greet somebody in Reason's name. Yes, we're going to be talking about it today. Let's do this as a way to get this going. Give me your top 5 rappers, top 5 dead or alive. And please don't feel like you have to put anybody in it just because you saw the thumbnail or anything like that. Just give me your top 5 dead or alive. And you don't even have to say, you mean in sales? Do you mean in skill? Do you mean in... I'm not going to give you any kind of criteria. Top 5 rappers, dead or alive. Mo immediately throws Rakim into the mix. He's going to come up today. Who else you got in your top 5 dead or alive? What's up, y'all? We just getting started. You ain't missed nothing yet. Get into the chat. Greet somebody in Reason's name. Pragmatic Crystal says, Bone Thugs, Twister. Okay. So both of them have a certain style that gets your ear. Okay. Respect. Michael Apple says, I won't even pretend to have a top 5. Top 2? Mo says, Rakim, LL, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One. Old school in the house. This is a joke, but I'll just throw it on the screen just so y'all see it. All right. My top 5, if you ask me, my top 5 list changes typically week to week. But right now, I think my top 5 list would be Royce the 5'9", Busta Rhymes, Rakim, a guy from the West Coast from a group called the Hieroglyphics. Pep Love would be number 4. Number 5, don't be mad at me. I'm probably going to throw Jay-Z in my top 5. Thank you. Finally, we got a lady MC in the house, MC Light in the top 5. On any given week, my list changes, and most weeks, Lauryn Hill is in my top 5. As you can see, she's on my wall. Okay. Eminem, in some weeks, Eminem is in my top 5 as well. Absolutely. Jay's on the list. Okay. Some weeks, Eminem is in my top 5. Some weeks he's not. Now, here goes the question that's going to get us into this, because we're going to come back. We're going to take a weird route today, y'all. We're going to come back to talking about the Bible, but first we got to talk about this principle. I think there's an Eminem principle, and once you understand what I'm calling the Eminem principle, I'm going to argue that the Eminem principle destroys the Bible. Let me ask you this. Michael Apple with the jokes. Schrodinger's rapper. That might be an inside joke, or at least a Facebook joke. If you're not on my Facebook page, you won't know what that's referring to. But let me ask you this at the risk of getting us in some trouble here. Do you think Eminem benefits from white privilege? And if so, how? Take a minute, think about it, throw your answer in the chat. Does the rapper Eminem, in his success in the rap genre, does he benefit from white privilege? And if so, how? Can't wait to see what you guys are going to say on this. And this came up because Sharon immediately says, yes, the same way Adele does. Okay. And hopefully that's not to say that you're not saying Adele is not a great singer, because she is. And I'm not in any way trying to say that Eminem is not a great rapper. Like I said, most weeks he's in my top 5, but we're going to tease this out. Mo says he's a great rapper and he's white. He's got the white audience sewed up. All right. Michael says from a marketing point of view, he's kind of a gateway drug. Interesting. Okay. My Unique Monique says, yes, I think he initially got exposure because he was seen as a novelty. Eminem has one of my favorite lines in rap, and it's one of the most crazy lines you can think of. He says, though I'm not the worst king of controversy, I am the first thing since Elvis Presley to use black music so selfishly and use it to get myself wealthy. So just think about what he's saying there. He says, yo, I know I'm using black music to get wealthy. Now, is he saying it, or is he saying it because he knows that's what you're thinking? He says, I am the first thing since Elvis Presley to use black music so selfishly and use it to get myself wealthy. Yeah. Something to think about there. Michael says, also, he's not Vanilla Ice. All right. So think about that. So this jumped off because a little while ago, I was on the phone with Jay Witt. We were talking about greatest rappers versus favorite rappers. And there's a difference, right? Somebody can be your favorite without them being, I thought you meant bonus. That's why I was trying to, Michael says, I meant bonus when he says he's not Vanilla Ice, bonus. Jay Witt asked me, do I think that Eminem is one of the greatest? And I jumped in and I said, yes, I think he is one of the greatest. But then in my mind, I immediately went back and forth because there's a conversation. People say, so there's a rapper named Lord Jamar who says Eminem is only considered the GOAT because he's white. And then Lord Jamar says you could find dozens, if not hundreds of black rappers who do what Eminem does, but don't get the acclaim that Eminem gets. And so I started having this conversation with Jay Witt. I was like, yo, you know what? I don't think black rappers can do what Eminem does. And I want you to hear me on this. I think Eminem is one of the greatest rappers, if not the greatest rapper ever. And I think that there are black rappers who are better than Eminem, or at least they do things that I like more. That's the difference between favorite rapper versus greatest rapper. But I think there's something Eminem does that black rappers cannot do. And this is going to sound strange to you at first, but I want you to hear me out, okay? I don't think you could find dozens, if not hundreds of rappers to do what Eminem does, because Eminem gets away with something that black rappers cannot afford to do. The way Eminem uses words, black rappers cannot afford to do that. There is a historical reason why. And when I lay out this historical journey, we're going to look at a couple different articles and videos to lay out this historical journey. And then once we get to the aha moment, we're going to tie it into why this destroys the Bible, at least for me, and why I think it ought to destroy the Bible for you as well. And then we're going to talk about a Christian conference that just happened where they're trying to rescue the Bible. So all this is where we're going today. All right. So Genius, the website that analyzes music and lyrics and all that, they did this in-depth study. And they said Eminem, and they looked at rappers, they looked at pop music, they looked at rock, all these different songwriters. They said Eminem uses the most unique words of any artist ever. All right. On average, about every 11 words, Eminem is bringing in a word he's never used before. So you can see the list now. Eminem at the top with over 8,000 unique words. Jay-Z trailing behind at close to 7,000. There's something about Eminem's use of words that I think black rappers cannot get away with. And I'm not saying that black rappers do not have mastery of the English language. Matter of fact, I think black rappers master the English language better than anyone because there's something that black people have had to do in this country. We're going to get into that. Black rappers are pulling in all kinds of words and ideas to paint their pictures. Eminem has the most unique words. His mastery of the English language should make you respect his pen game. There's a reason why black rappers can't do that. I'm teasing this out here. So, but it's not just how many unique words Eminem uses. It's also how he uses words. Eminem takes liberty with words to pronounce them in. So it's not just that he's using unique words. He's pronouncing words that are not so unique in unique ways. And maybe you remember this video from back in the day, where Anderson Cooper actually interviewed Eminem. So check out this check out this interview here, and we're not gonna play the whole thing, but you'll see what I mean.
I've heard you say that you bend the word.
Yeah, it's just in the enunciation of it. Like people say that the word orange doesn't rhyme with anything, and that kind of pisses me off because I can think of a lot of things that rhyme with orange.
What rhymes with orange?
If you're taking the word at face value and you just say orange, nothing is going to rhyme with it exactly. If you enunciate it and you make it like more than one syllable, orange, you could say like, I put my orange 4-inch door hinge in storage and ate porridge with George. You just have to figure out the science to breaking down words and try to.
All right, so here you got Eminem showing you how he bends words to make his rhymes work. There's two things that I just talked about that Eminem does flawlessly and effortlessly that black rappers can't afford to do. One, using a ton of unique words that you've never used before and that people may not have even heard before. You might have to go look the word up, like, oh, he really was. Eminem is using unique words. Then Eminem is using regular words in unique ways that black rappers can't afford to do. Why not? Because historically, African Americans in this country have been looked at as uneducated, if not uneducated, less educated. And anytime you attempt to go outside of what looks like that should be your lane, you shouldn't live in this neighborhood. You shouldn't be wearing those kinds of clothes. You shouldn't be talking like that. I could ask you in the chat, see if you, let me see what you guys say. I'm going to ask you this and then get back to making my point. In the chat, talk to me. Do you think there's such a thing as talking white? Have you ever heard a black person speak and in your mind or even to the person said you talk white? And if so, what did you mean? I got a feeling some of y'all are not going to be bold enough to actually say your true answer. Is there such a thing as talking white? I'm looking in the chat now. Tranview says, I've been told that I talk white, but I'm mixed. Okay. Sharon says, yes, no bass in the voice. Okay. So you're talking about the tonation of the voice. Michael says, I've never made the observation, but I certainly heard it said. Okay. Monique says, heard it all the time since I'm from Indiana, but still live in St. Louis. Means, and that's what I was waiting for, means talking proper English. So I heard the bass in the voice thing. You know, there's a whole Will Smith joke in Bad Boys. You got to take the bass out your voice if you want them to not be afraid. But talking proper English is typically seen as talking white. I used to reject that, right? Like just because you talk proper English don't mean you talk white. I rejected it until I read this article. So there's an article from, let me see, where's it at? This article here from James Baldwin. If you've never read it before, go back and check it out. This article is called, If Black English Isn't a Language, Then Tell Me What Is. And in this article, what James Baldwin does is he goes to bat for the way Black people have taken the English language and embraced it without fully embracing it, such that talking proper, the way Baldwin is using it, talking proper English actually can be seen as talking white, because what Blacks have historically done is embraced the language just enough to get by in a white world, but not enough to fully assimilate. And so if you saw a Black person who fully did embrace the language, it might have been a sign that this person has done too much. You've assimilated too much. You're not just trying to get by in this white world in which we find ourselves. You've actually gone over. But if we keep what we talk broken English, right, or Ebonics, if you talk this broken English, what it does is it says, I'm not fully assimilating. I'm only doing enough to get by. So it's almost like the not fully embracing the proper enunciation of English in this country was almost a non-silent and non-violent protest, right? It's vocally protesting against this people having been kidnapped and their culture being stolen from them. We'll talk your language, not completely though. All right, so let's go back to what we were talking about. Let me look at the chat. Okay. So Eminem, he speaks proper English, but he speaks over rap beats. He's bringing in unique words all the time, and he's even bending words. Why cannot Black people do that so effortlessly? It's not that we can't. It's that if we do, we fight certain stigmas. One, we fight the stigma of talking white. Two, we also fight the stigma of, hey, you're using all these unique words, but do you actually even know what these words mean? No one hears Eminem using unique words and thinks he probably don't even know what that is. You hear a Black rapper using words that you're not used to hearing people of color use, having a big vocabulary, and you think, are you just saying these words to get over on? Do you really know it? You've got to fight this stigma. You've got to fight this stereotype that you're not smart enough to be using all these words. And so you either don't use them, or you use them, but you run the risk of somebody looking at you like you don't really even understand what you're saying. That keeps Black rappers from being able to rap the way Eminem raps. The other thing is when Eminem bends words and mispronounces them just to make them rhyme, If a black rapper were to do that, were to mispronounce the words just to make the words rhyme, you instinctively, because of the way this country has taught us to see black people, you wouldn't look at the black rapper and say, oh, he's being clever. He's being creative. He's stretching it to make it. You'd look at the black rapper and you'd be tempted to say, does he know that he's not pronouncing that right? You see Eminem mispronounce a word and you think he's got to be doing that on purpose. Clearly he knows. He's the right color. He's the right complexion to mispronounce an English word and get the benefit of the doubt. But I bet he knows how it's really pronounced. The black rapper mispronounces the words to make it rhyme. And you're a little skeptical of, somebody ought to correct him. Somebody ought to tell him that's not how that word's pronounced. It's a stigma you have to fight to even be as creative as you want to be. Now, that's not to say that black rappers don't do that and can't do that. But it is to say you don't just get the benefit of the doubt if you're black. In some way, shape, or form, you've got to prove that this is how you get down, that people shouldn't second guess you. People should just know if you mispronounce something, you did it on purpose. If you're using a big word, it's because you know the word. You've got to some kind of way, you got to do more if you're black to get the benefit of the doubt, that people should just say, oh, yep, look how creative that person is. Look how knowledgeable that person is. Eminem doesn't have to fight that. Now watch how this ties in when we get to the Bible. You'll see in a second. But all of this is to say, I used to think, I'll never forget the moment I realized what was happening with some of my favorite artists. I used to think that the reason why black rappers, the ones that I like, the ones who were conscious rappers who would edutain you, they would entertain you and educate you at the same time. I got that from KRS-One. I mean, that edutainment goes back to the 1950s, way before rap. The KRS-One, who's a conscious rapper, AKA they call him the teacher, he had an album called Edutainment. I said, oh, the rappers that I like, they were doing edutainment. And I thought that they were using big words because they knew them all, because they had a lot to say, and these big words just encapsulated these big ideas. Now, granted, some of them were doing that, but I'll never forget the day I found out that some of my favorite rappers, they were not using these big words because they just were trying to be all knowledgeable and educate us. They were using them for a different reason. So I'm going to play this clip where two conscious old school rappers, two of the greats, they're going to talk about this. So you got KRS-One interviewing the rapper Rakim. Listen to why Rakim says he started using all these big words in his music. This blew me away when I saw it.
I think I read or heard in an article, you said part of the way in which you wrote your rhymes and your early inspiration came from jazz horn playing. John Coltrane.
Hearing what John Coltrane was doing, man, the solos and the rhythms that he was doing, it was just in me, man. And I started realizing, like, holding on to all the rhythms that I heard in jazz. When I started sitting down to write rhymes in hip hop, I wasn't just hearing 1, 2, 3, 4. I was saying 1, 2, 3, and 4, and whatever. You know what I mean? So I started realizing, if I can, fill in all of this space with rhythms and intellectual words that grab them and 4 or 5 syllable words and you know what I mean? I figured out, I can make the same rhythms that he was making by using certain syllable words and using certain syllable words after each other. You know what I mean? So I took it from a flow and a flow and flow and then gold and a blown and to blown down doodle blown to diddle blown bone to don't blown to don't. You know what I mean? It's like all over the place with it. Yeah.
That's got to be one of the greatest clips ever. First, you got 2 legends in the clip. But Rakim, if you don't know anything about rap, Rakim changed rap music. There's a few people who changed rap music. Big Daddy Kane changed it. And somebody might say the change that Big Daddy Kane brought, he got it from Kool G Rap. Then a year later, Rakim changed it. And then a few years later, Biggie Smalls changed it. That's before it went to the South. But what these people were doing was they were making rap more intricate. Now, if you don't know, Rakim was a 5%er. That's a spinoff of the Black Nation of Islam that teaches that the black man is God, and they're all about trying to educate, blacks in the inner city or blacks period, that you're not quote unquote niggas, you're gods and all these things. I thought they're big on knowledge and science, even though I would argue with what they're calling knowledge and science. As a Christian, I argue with it, and I still argue with it today. But back when I was young, I thought, oh, Rakim, he's one of the gods and earths. He's one of those 5%ers. He was trying to educate people in his lyrics. Here, Rakim says, no. The reason why I was bringing in all these huge words was because I was trying to mimic what John Coltrane was doing on the saxophone. All those jazz notes that Coltrane was doing. Rakim says, when I started writing rap wasn't doing that. Rap was just 1, 2, 3. But if I wanted to mimic John Coltrane's notes, I needed bigger syllable words. So if I take 4 and 5 syllable words, then I could. That's the kind of rap that I grew up on and I started writing. But if you listen to those kind of rappers, there's a rapper from the South. I see his face. Why can't I think of his name? Basically, when the South started getting huge, one of the things about blacks in the North versus blacks in the South is there's this education gap where people in the North were looking at people in the South like, you guys are all uneducated. So there's a Southern rapper, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but he dissed Rakim. This Southern rapper dissed Rakim, who's from the North, and he said, don't nobody want to hear that goddamn dictionary rap. He was talking about Rakim's rap as dictionary rap. And there was this real question of, do you guys up north, when you use these 4 and 5 syllable words, are you just opening the dictionary and just rapping the dictionary, or do you really know what you're talking about? There's another clip I'll play. Do I have it in here queued up? No, I don't have it queued up, but I'll cue it up here. This guy in there, this is an old school rapper, Busta Rhymes, and he's talking about how he writes his rhymes, and he says, vocabulary's necessary, went digging into my library. Now, why is he saying that I got to go to the library? I got to up my vocabulary to write my rhymes. It wasn't just because, like I thought, that these people wanted to educate. No, these people were trying to make these multisyllabic rhyme schemes, and so they needed bigger words. And you could really question, and I'm not saying rightly or wrongly, but just naturally question, okay, you're digging into your library to up your vocabulary, but do you really know what you're talking about? So there's part of the history here. Entertainment in this country, you can go back to the early, or I guess close to the mid 1900s. There was a show that came on called the Amos and Andy Show. And if you know anything about the Amos and Andy Show, it started as a radio program before it went to TV. On the radio, it was 2 white guys talking like they think black people talk. And they called themselves Amos and Andy. And these 2 white guys, I'm going to tie a few things in here, so bear with me. The recent kerfuffle that just happened with Derek from Myth Vision and Robert Price, one of the things that they said about Robert Price was he was talking about one of his, something that he had written. He was talking about slaves in the Bible, and then something that he was writing to talk about these slaves, he started putting words in these slaves' mouths. And when he did that, for some dumb reason, he thought it would be great to go to 18th and 20th century slavery in America and take the vernacular of slaves from that time period and put it in the mouths of the slaves in the Bible that he was talking about, which sort of just had a very racist overtone to it, or undertone to it. Well, the Amos and Andy show, before it was a TV show, it was two white guys talking the way that they thought these uneducated, ignorant Southern blacks talk. And then when they transferred it from a radio show to a TV show, they got two black people to actually play the roles of Amos and Andy. And these two black people had to basically talk this coon type talk. Black people talking the way white people wanted their uneducated black people to sound at that time. So I'm gonna play this clip because here, this is Bill Cosby in the 1970s, I believe it is, talking about Amos and Andy back in the 1940s and 50s. So check this out.
I liked Amos and Andy. I did not see them as ignorant blacks. See, but that's a different way that we accept certain things. I mean, there are certain routines that I can tell on a stage which deals with an all-black audience that I would not tell on television. Wouldn't allow it, because there are some white people who would laugh at that and say, yeah, that's them, and that's why they ain't gonna get to So Far From the Sun. You understand what I'm saying?
Sometimes the truth doesn't come with shouting, it just lands. And what you're about to hear is one of the most honest things ever said about Amos and Andy, about how we've been seen, how we've been used, and how we've been disrespected as black people. It's not loud, but it cuts deep.
So just think about that. Think about the stigma, a history of people looking at blacks in this country as, and one of the things Amos and Andy were known for is they were known for malapropisms. Malapropism is you're using a word that you think you're using the right way, but you're not using it the right way. In the Knives Out series, the murderer in the recent, I guess the latest Knives Out series movie was known for using these malapropisms. Like, you're not using that word right, but nobody around you is going to correct you because either they don't know it either, or they just pity you. Like, I'm not even going to take the time to correct you. Well, Amos and Andy were known for these malapropisms. But looking at it from the outside in, you're like, oh, is that just how black people are? Or does anybody in their community even know that? Can somebody pull their coat tail and say, hey, you're not using that right? So all of that was to get to this point here. So there's a rapper who, rather than just using big words or stretching things to make it rhyme and leaving you with the question of, I don't know if he really knows what that means or not. There's one rapper who stands out when it comes to that. And until very recently, I thought it was the worst rapper ever. And I couldn't understand why people like this guy. If you know who I'm talking about, try to throw it in the chat before I throw him on the screen. But I found out that this dude is actually not as bad as I thought. And I'm not going to say he became my favorite rapper. He's still nowhere in my top 10 or even top 20. But I ended up respecting him. So I'll throw him on the screen here and you'll see who I'm talking about in a second. Or maybe you know just from the thumbnail of the video. This guy here, yep, David DeVoe, you got it. Ghostface. Ghostface came out with an album back in the late 90s, if not early 2000s. I think it was the late 90s. Came out with an album called Supreme Clientele. And when I heard this album, I was appalled. I was astonished and appalled because Ghostface was using words that made me say, you cannot know what you're talking about. There's no way that you know, but people were eating it up. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Do y'all hear what he's saying? And people say, yo, I love it, man. I just love it. Yo, when he said, what the fuck are you talking about? This dude is. So this is like over 20 years ago. It wasn't until the late 20 teens that Ghostface actually came out and admitted he had no clue what he was talking about on that album. So check out what Ghostface said. This is the article in Genius. Ghostface says, when I was rhyming on Nutmeg and One, those are two songs on Supreme Clientele, the album, He says, I made a style that I couldn't even tell what it was. I just wanted to use some words that sounded good with each other, and everybody's trying to decipher what I mean. Really, I don't even know what I mean because I had no beat. But something said, make a record, write a verse real quick, just putting words together, whether they mean something or not. Just put them together. That's what I did on Nutmeg, and that's what I did on One. And I'm just going to show you some lyrics from the song. Ghostface says, I can't even read it. It's so stupid. Just look at these lyrics. I feel stupid even trying to read it to you. Like I keep trying to do it, but I can't bring myself to even repeat it. Let me force myself to read these stupid ass lyrics. He says, I can't even do it. Lightning rod, fever heaters, knock knee, a shiva for heaver. I can't do it, y'all. Sorry. I can't bring myself to read these fucking lyrics. Oh my gosh. But here's the point. The point is, if you want people to think, oh, he knows what he's talking about, he's just being cute, he's just being creative, one of two things has to happen. You either have to have demonstrated beforehand, before somebody corrects you, like, hey, that's not how you say that word, or hey, this don't mean that, or this, before somebody steps up to correct you, you have to either demonstrate beforehand that you know already, so that when you twist it, when you step out of what they think should be your lane, they say, oh, I know he knows already, so he must be being creative here. Or you have to have something about you that makes people give you the benefit of the doubt, that even though you sound like you don't know what you mean right now, you still do. Eminem's whiteness does that for him. Eminem's whiteness buys him a certain amount of leeway that makes listeners say, even though he's mispronouncing this, even though he's using words that I don't know, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he knows. Whereas black rappers, the jury's going to be out. The jury's still out. You hear them and you Black Thought is one of my favorite rappers. Black Thought is often in my top 5. Black Thought often makes cultural references that are not my culture, but it tells me he's up in a higher echelon. His pedigree is other. He's bringing in references that make me say, I got to go look that up. And I'm tempted to say, I wonder if he even is he just doing the Ghostface thing here? Because Ghostface and Black Thought, they almost sound the same, except when you go look up the stuff Black Thought is saying, you're like, oh, that's a real thing. And he's using it in the right context. You go look up the stuff that Ghostface is saying, and you're like, my hunch was right. He had no idea what he was talking about. It wasn't until I saw that article in Genius that I said, okay, at least now I know he knows he didn't make sense. Because if he thought he was making sense, I can't rock with him. I don't want to co-sign that. He thinks he's making sense. Now we get to turn it. What does this have to do with the Bible? The more you read your Bible and the more you understand what we've come to learn, what we've come to know about almost anything, whether it be biology, whether it be cosmology, whether it be geology, whether it be geography, whether it be human anatomy, almost any field you go to, the Bible is saying tons of things that we now know that's wrong. We now know no divine mind could have ever thought that, because that is not how the world works. That's not how human physiology works. If a woman doesn't bleed her first time having sex, she must not be a virgin. We know enough now to know that that's not how physiology works. It works that way sometimes, not all the time. If a divine mind doesn't know that, that should cause you to question how divine is the mind behind that. If you think the way human beings are created is that the man has the seed and the woman doesn't do anything but incubate the man's seed, such that if you just put the man's seed in the woman, she incubates, it doesn't contribute anything to that process. So the idea of a virgin birth means she really had nothing to do with it. God just overshadowed her and did something, and she just was incubated. You don't know how humans are made if you don't understand that they're each contributing genetic material to what's going to be. If you don't know that, you want me to stand back and give you the benefit of the doubt that you actually did know the truth, but you just went and said some other stuff because you were being cute, you were being creative. If you think that there's a dome covering the earth, if you think that the sky is a solid dome, now, are you just saying that because you're just trying to be cute? Or do you really know how cosmology works? Why am I saying this? Because the more we find out about our world, the more we're looking at the Bible saying they didn't know or they were just being cute here. When I had my crisis of faith, one of the things that the apologists tried to convince me is, oh, no. It's not that the human authors didn't know or that God didn't know. It's several things. It's maybe the human authors didn't know, and so God allowed them to speak phenomenologically. He allowed them to talk about things the way they seemed. Or maybe it's because, no, they knew that there was no, pick something from early Genesis. Fred B in the house. What's going on? They knew that there was no the seas at the beginning of creation. They knew that there was no Tiamat, no what's the term I'm looking for? This divine. I don't know why I'm blanking on this term right now. Somebody in the chat, you might even know what I'm trying to get at here. At the beginning of time, the way that the Mesopotamian myths went was there was this sort of this war at the beginning between God or the gods and these sort of monster-like figures, whether it be the Tiamat or either Tiamat was a real monster or Tiamat was just a symbol for the seas. And so at the beginning of time or the beginning of the creation, there's this divine cosmic battle going on. And the authors of Genesis know that that's not really how things went, but they use that language to sort of just create a polemic to what was going on at the time. And so everything that you read in Genesis is not saying that, so pick something like, let's say in Genesis, you have earth coming before the sun, right? The earth is made in the beginning, and then the sun is made on day 4. Well, if you're divine, if you're God, you know that that's not how things went, but you're just saying these things maybe to make a polemic against Egypt, right? You see, I'm rocking the Egyptian tea right now. Egypt thought that the sun was God. And so maybe in Genesis, what the author is doing is trying to say, y'all think the sun is God? Well, guess what? We're going to tell a story where the sun doesn't even show up until day 4. Not because we think that that's how things actually happen, but just to put your God in its place. Your God is a day 4 creation. The earth comes first in our story. Okay, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe the authors of Genesis, the human ones or the divine one, if you think God's behind it, maybe God really does know that planets don't come before the stars that they orbit. The stars come first and the planets form in the accretion disk around the star. Maybe God knows that, but just to make a polemic against Egypt's God, he had them right that the sun came after the earth. Maybe. But in the same way that Eminem gets the benefit of the doubt because I think it's a bit of white privilege, right? You're the right complexion to make us give you the benefit of the doubt that you know these words, you know that you're pronouncing it wrong, you're just being cute, you're just being creative. Does the Bible have anything that should make me, that should make you look at all the things it's getting wrong and say, they're probably getting it wrong on purpose? Like, you've got to give Bible God the benefit of the doubt that it knows cosmology, that it knows physics, that it knows chemistry, that it knows biology, that it knows geology, that it knows all these things. You've got to give it the benefit of the doubt that it knows these things, but just was trying to be creative and saying something other than that. And I'm wondering, what has Bible God ever done to make me give it that benefit of the doubt? To make me say it, the God of the Bible probably does know the truth. It just didn't tell us that. Now, granted, you can give the benefit of the doubt anytime you want. You can give the benefit of the doubt to Ghostface Killer, that he knew what he was talking about on Supreme Clientele. Catch him 20 years later and he'll say, guess what? I don't know what I was saying. I give the benefit of the doubt to Black Thought now, no matter what Black Thought writes. Even if I can't Google it and find it, I'm like, yo, but I bet you he knows, because he's done enough to make me say, I've Googled enough of his lyrics, enough of his, out of the pocket references to know, oh, that's a real thing. He knows what he's talking about. Now, when he says something new to me, I'm just like, yep, that's Black Thought, educating me about something else I didn't know, ushering me into a new echelon of a cultural things that I could get up on. The Bible has not earned that. I don't care if you look at the prophecy in the Bible. I don't care if you look at, there's so many things and so many ways that the Bible gets wrong. It's the last clip I'm going to play because this is part one. This is a new series that I'm going to get into, and I'm about to show you what this series is about to address. So if you're familiar, maybe you're not, there is a organization called Jude 3. And they have a video that they just put up called something like, Can I Trust the Bible, or something like that. This is just the opening of this panel that they did. And I'm going to do a series on this, but just check this out.
It's going to go right into where I think a lot of people have questions about in light of things we see in culture and the cultural baggage or assumptions about scripture. Why should we actually trust the Bible?
I'll jump off. Look, one thing that always stuck with me is that Jesus said this collection of literature testifies about him. And so if he's crazy enough.
So he's talking about Jesus, the words that the New Testament authors put in Jesus's mouth when Jesus supposedly says that the entire Old Testament, or the law and the prophets, he says, they testify about him. So he's saying if Jesus says that the law and the prophets testified about him, I'm not frozen. I'm going back.
Jump off. Look, one thing that always stuck with me is that Jesus said this collection of literature testifies about him. And so if he's crazy enough to believe in this collection of literature, and I'm trying to be his disciple, I think it's a good idea for me to trust what my rabbi says and go along the journey of discovery.
So here you have somebody who's willing to give the biblical authors the benefit of the doubt because, hey, Jesus said this. In the next couple of, so we got tomorrow pop-up session, and I'll be back on next Monday with another pop-up session. I'm going to do a series going through this Jude 3 conference because what's happening is they know the reason why they're doing that panel of should we trust the Bible or can we trust the Bible? The reason why they're doing that is because they know you got people like Dan McClellan who just came out with the book. I think his book is called The Bible Tells Me So. The Bible says, I forget, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of Dan's book. But calling the Bible into question. Then you've got people like Justin, Deconstruction Zone, online every day, walking people through how Jesus did not fulfill any Old Testament, quote unquote, messianic prophecy. You've got people left and right destroying our trust in the Bible, and rightly so. So now you've got apologists jumping up, trying to barricade the church doors closed. Like, no. Don't give up trust on the Bible. We can still trust it. The question is, has the Bible earned the benefit of the doubt to be able to get so many things wrong and us sit back and just assume, but I bet you they really still did know the truth? So that's going to be the series that we dive into now. I don't think the Bible deserves that trust. I don't think it's earned that trust. I don't think it's done anything to make us say, as wrong as it is, it's probably still right. All right. In the comments, let me know if y'all got anything to say here, because that's all we're doing for the day. And then we out. Hope you guys enjoy your Memorial Day. If you're cooking out, if you're anywhere near me, make me a plate. Did somebody put the name of Dan's book in the chat? I hate to talk about it without. The Bible says so. Thank you. Yep. Carl says, is so good. Flame emoji. Yes. All right. If you're not a Patreon supporter, I would encourage you to join the Patreon, simply because it helps folks like me to know that this is actually something that matters to you. And while I'm here, I might as well send a shout out to these folks. Picked up a few even new supporters over the weekend. So appreciate you all. And you can find the link for the Patreon in the description. All right. That being the case, I'm out. Love you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.